Dear world, on this episode, I want to talk about being a product of the system. And again, I'm not claiming to be any kind of victim. I'm just giving you a brief history of me. And when I mean being a product of the system, I mean being a product of the education system. And I know Arkansas doesn't have like the greatest educational system, actually one of the lowest in the country. But in grade school, I did fine. I was an average student, along with everyone else. I had art ambitions. I used to draw mazes and draw different things. As a matter of fact, I have a piece of art hanging on my door over here and that I drew in, I think it was maybe the 5th or 6th grade. I went on a tour of a school for the gifted and talented, and we had to do what kind of crayons were they? They're like the pastel crayons or some shit like that. But we had to do this art piece with them, and I was evaluated on whether or not I'd be a good fit for this school for the gifted and talented. Of course, I didn't make it to the school of gifted and talented. I don't know for what reason why. Or maybe it was just, my mother trying to make me be a little more ambitious. I don't know. All I know is I went through it, and it was kind of cool. So when I hit junior high, see, at my school, we didn't have a middle school and we didn't have a junior high and high school separation. It was 7th through 12th. So I dealt with a lot of bullying because I was always a big kid. I've always been a big kid since about 3rd grade. But so in the 7th grade, I got lazy in class. I lost all motivation to be there because I had a teacher, I don't remember who, but I had a teacher that basically spelled out how to pass in high school. And I'm not trying to lead by example here, so don't follow what I'm about to say. But they said that if you fail the first 9 weeks and you fail the second 9 weeks, but you pass the semester exam with an A, it brings that second 9 weeks grade up to a D, and then you pass the class for that semester. So that's what I did. I just wouldn't do any work or anything for the first 9 weeks, and then I would study for the semester exam, and I would pass it with an A. And in doing that, I didn't learn anything, and I got a grade behind everybody. And so 8th grade rolled around, and all of a sudden, everyone else is so much further along than I am, and I'm looking at everything like, oh, fuck. So I got tested for special education classes. And in this test, I failed questions on purpose because I wanted an easy ride. And I am paying for that every day of my life at this point. So they had questions like, one of these things are not like the other. Find the different, the one that's not like the other, right? I would fail it. I would fail easy math questions because I wanted an easy ride. Well, I got an easy ride. And I am not on the education level of anyone else my age. So I get put in special ed classes. And slowly but surely it ended up being every core class with special ed. And by senior year, I wish I would have took a different route. But in the special ed classes, I didn't learn anything. It was the same books every year. You took a test at the beginning of the year to determine how far along you were in that subject, and everyone worked out of different books. Well, if you sandbagged the test, then you got put in an easy book. And so that's what I would do because I wanted to pass. Well, I took the easy way out all through high school, and I paid for it. I did have a couple of teachers that inspired me. I had a math teacher that wouldn't let me take the easy way out eventually. I got a teacher named Miss Dokes, and she made me start working out of a special ed pre-algebra workbook to the point that I could do algebra. And the next year I got put in regular algebra classes. And as a matter of fact, I thank her a lot for my love for algebra, because I was able, when right out of high school, I went to IHT Tech, and I was able to pass college algebra with a 95A. But after algebra the next year, in high school, I had to take geometry, and then it was right back down the drain. I just found no love for geometry. I lost all ambition for math. So I went right back to my same route. And it was just an easy way out. Instead of challenging me, I got easy way outs. I had a story about Ms. Dokes that I'm going to share later when I work up the courage to share it, because it involves me doing some embarrassing things on an English paperwork. Anyway, okay, so check it out. We had to do this open book quiz. Open book. And even on the quiz, we had to put which page number we found the answers on. Now, instead of going through and doing it, I started putting bullshit answers, and I marked out my name, and I wrote it in block letters so you couldn't tell whose handwriting it was. I thought I was covering all my bases. And it got to a point, it was a story we were supposed to read, and I didn't read it. Well, it got to a point where it said, "What did the king give Tappan?" And I am 13, 14 years old. And my little horn dog mind said the king gave Tappan a blowjob. And I turned it in. And the teacher, and I'm in regular English class at this point, and the teacher graded him. And he graded him for a long time. I was getting nervous. And then he called me out to the hallway. And he said, "I went through attendance on who all was here and who didn't turn one in, Cody. Did you do this?" And I immediately broke down. I was like, "I'm sorry." And he took me to the principal's office. I ended up getting suspended for like 3 days for doing it. But they had to call Ms. Dokes in because she was my special ed representative. And I was like, "Please don't call Ms. Dokes in." Yeah, I got suspended for that. But I also had a teacher, an English teacher for special ed in the 11th grade, that inspired me to start doing poetry, and she introduced me to a website. It was like poetry.com or something like that, and I started putting poems on there. And I know it was probably a gimmick or a scam, but they put some of them in a book. They called them Editor's Choice, and I got an Editor's Choice Award in the mail and a catalog where I could order the book. And my mom ordered the book. It's here somewhere. And my poem is in that book. So I'm a published poet. I always hang that on the shelf that I can say that. I mean, how many people can say they're a published poet? There was a book published with my poem in it. And I tried using other websites. This didn't get the following I did on this one website. But I think that teacher, I cannot remember her name, my English teacher, Miss Dunlap. I want to thank Miss Dunlap for inspiring me to write poetry, and I want to thank Miss Dokes for pushing me when none of the rest of the teachers would. They would just let me do whatever I wanted. My senior year, I was hardly at school. I was skipping because I only needed one class to pass. So I would skip school and no one cared. They marked me there. My special ed classes marked me there knowing I wasn't in their class. My mother would call the special ed department and be like, "Is Cody in class?" And they'd be like, "Well, he's not in class, but I know he's here." And so she would call down and shop, and sure enough, I'd answer the phone, shop, student speaking, and I'd be in trouble. Or I got busted skipping one day. Me and my best friend and one of our friends who was a female, we went and seen The Punisher in theaters I think it was at the Rave. But my mom called my cell phone, and I was like, "Oh, if she's calling my cell phone, I gotta answer. She knows I'm in shop." So I picked up the phone. I walked outside to the hallway and I answered the phone, and she's like, "Cody, where are you at?" And I was like, "I'm in shop." And she's like, "Try again." And I was like, "What are you talking about? I'm in shop." And she's like, "I just called the shop and you're not there." And I was like, "I went to the movies, I'm hanging out, I'm doing this." So, yeah, I got in big trouble for that. But, I just didn't have, and I know that there's a shit ton of students. It's not like I had a small class, but, and I understand that not everyone can be there for my needs. But I just didn't have anyone that was pushing me and giving me any kind of ambition or anything to look forward to except for a handful of teachers. And then it was over with because the next year would roll around and I'd had new teachers. And the only reason why I call myself a product of the system was because I know I could have did better. I know I could have. But that 7th grade year and that teacher told me how to make it through without actually having to do any work. I used the system to take an easy way out. And I have paid for it. I can't spell. I don't words good. And see, I know I'm saying everything wrong, but it would take me forever to figure out how to say it right. So instead of going over these, I'm shooting from the hip right now because if I went over it, it wouldn't be me. I would try to use big words that I wouldn't even know if I was using them right. I would try to use things that people would watch it and go, that's not you. So I'm shooting from the hip instead of going over these and writing everything down. I mean, like, look, I've got, and just to hit my little chalkboard, keeping me on track. And so I don't, God dang it. I shouldn't have moved it. So I don't get off track. I just wish I would have done things differently. And now that I've said all this, maybe it's not so much that I'm a product of the system. Maybe it's just that I took the easy way out instead of trying. And I've got light bulbs going all over the place right now because it's starting to make sense, a lot of decisions I've made in my life, that instead of taking the road less traveled, I take the easy way out, and that hasn't gotten me anywhere. So I think that from here on out, I'm going to do my best to not take the easy way out. It's so easy for me to stay distanced from everything, and when I'm confused and don't know what to do, just to do nothing. And that's an easy way out. And that's got me into where I'm at right now, where I say all my thoughts are self-destructive, but a lot of things where I just didn't do anything. And so I need to take a stand and take back my life. Like, you see it in my face, like, I'm like, damn, Cody. Anyways, this is another, before I forget, don't forget to follow me on the Twitters, at Kotah, that is COTAH, at Kotah _the_great, and you can find me on Facebook. Don't forget to like my page, at Kotah the Great, all together, no underscores on the Facebook. And this is... Let me find another place to grab from, because it was pointed out to me that if I'm going to pull a piece off me for the internet, I need to grab a different piece, right? So, here we go. Here's another piece of myself for the internet. Here you go.